Hello everyone, welcome here again with me Elohim. You probably recognize me for this very complicated, funny accent that I have. Sorry for the noise, those are my amazing neighbors, you know that I live in New York and this is pretty common here. For this video, I invite my new friend, he's Raven Morgaine. He's very well known in the medical community, but now he's an author. Um, so I have some notes about him. Raven Morgaine is a practitioner of Candomblé, New Orleans Voodoo, Santeria, and Witchcraft. Also, he's the owner of the Familiar Spirit Shop in Coventry, Rhode Island, and I'm totally sure I pronounced very bad. He's an artist. A lot of his art and expressions are on display in the Wonder Woman Museum of Connecticut. Also, he's the author of this very nice book that is Yemaya, Orisha, Goddess and Queen of the Sea, with Weiser Books, that is available very soon in 2021. I will put all the links in the description that you can find the book and the Instagram of my friend. So, how are you doing, Raven?
I'm good. How are you today?
I am doing very well. You see me in the behind the scenes trying to fix everything, but you know that happens every time, especially with me. I am a very disorganized person, but I know everything in my disaster. I know everything. I assure you that. I have these questions that I always make to my friends because I'm not American. I'm pretty new here. So, where do you live? And which is your favorite thing about your city?
Where do I live now?
Exactly.
All right. So right now I live in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. I don't know if I like it. We haven't been there that long. And well, actually, we've been there a little over a year, but we moved in during the pandemic. So we didn't go anywhere. We didn't see anything. I don't know where anything is. Like, I couldn't tell you how to get to my house. Like, it's a good thing that I don't drive because I would be lost all the time. But it's a very industrial city. And there are parts of it where you can just feel like the sorrow of all of the people who worked there so long, so hard and got nowhere.
So you're a practitioner of Candomblé, New Orleans Voodoo. I need to ask, what is that sound? Is like a owl or something?
Oh, right, I forgot. Okay, so I have doves.
Okay.
The Pomba, and they're chatty this morning. I covered them up. I tried to get them to stop, but they're not gonna stop.
Oh no, I like it. Was a little confusion when I start listening that because the alarm of my phone is a owl. So every time that I listen, the owl is my alarm telling me something. When I listen, immediately what is my phone because it should be turned off in this moment. But it's very nice. I grew up having a lot of animals in home because my dad has all kind of pets. We has dog, we has cats, we has bird, we has snake, we has mouse, we has everything in home.
Wow.
I really, I'm really sorry. I relate with that sound. I really like it when we have animals in home because make us feel like we are not alone, but also it's a little part of the nature inside of the apartment. That's very nice.
Yeah, they're actually in my shop with me. That's where I am right now.
Tell me about your shop. Your shop is Familiar Spirit Shop in Coventry, Rhode Island. Tell me about your shop.
No, that's kind of wrong. They printed it wrong in the book. It's in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Which is the
I am wrong. I'm really sorry. But
yeah,
I am here with my friend who can correct me.
That's all right. Yeah, it's not your fault. They put it wrong in the book. I had mentioned for them to change it, and I guess they didn't get it in time, maybe. But we used to
for the next edition. For the next edition, very soon.
Yes. So we used to be in Coventry, but now we're in West Warwick, which is like one town over. And it is called Familiar Spirits. They got that right.
Do you have offers? No, do you offer readings, items, candles, books, stuff?
We do. I read. So like I do the tarot, and I do bones, and I do obi. Um, Not always for everyone, but
Yeah.
some people just get the cards. Um, so we do that. I do work for people. I do spiritual work for people. Um, and then we carry pretty much everything you need to do your own work, if you're not comfortable having somebody do it for you.
Okay. Raven, this is a very deep question. How was the year 2020 for you?
How was what?
The year 2020. How was 2020 for you?
Oh God. It was hard. It was a really, really hard year. Um, right before um, right before the pandemic came in 2021 and 2020, I lost my dad, so I was already depressed. Um, the pandemic hit. My shop was closed for 3 months. Um, I got like absolutely no help from the government. I got turned down for every grant, every program, because I work by myself, so I don't have employees. So I wasn't available for anything. We couldn't go anywhere. It was it was scary. It was a scary time. You know, I ended up, in order just to stay afloat, I decided, well, if I can't do what I do, I need to do what I can. So I started sewing masks and selling them outside of my store, like every day. So I would sew for 12 hours a day, every day. And I was exhausted, and but it got us through, you know. Um, there was a lot of uh, a lot of loss in 2020. It was it was definitely a time where you learned who your friends are, and who your family is. I don't have left, so I was adopted, and I don't have anybody in my adopted family left. Everybody has passed. My mother died, my father died, my sister was killed, um, and my brother committed suicide. So it's just me and the people that I keep close to me, like my friends. And the amount of people I didn't ever hear from is amazing. And the amount of people that I reached out to, and only that was the only time we got in contact, is if I, reached out to them. Um, and it narrowed things down, and it put things in perspective. And then also the way that the social climate was, and the political climate was, and everybody hated each other, and it was so divisive, and you never really knew what you could say or where you could say it, because people would just like go, and which is hard for me because I don't edit myself. I don't censor myself at all. So I hardly ever think before I speak. Um, so that was going to be a problem. So it was hard. It was really, really hard, and it was lonely. I spent most of it, if I wasn't sewing, I was writing, because I was working on this book. Um, and it definitely gave me a new perspective about humanity and how much um, we need what I write about. You know what I mean? Like, we need compassion. You know, we need compassion in this world. There's not very much of it left.
Um, I don't planning go deep in your life. Thanks for everything that you said about your past and about your family. Obviously, you come from a very strong background. Life, in many ways, prepared you for all of this. I really appreciate that you share the story with us. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
These are to light the moment. I have these two very silly questions that I
Yeah.
always make to my friends. The first one is, do you remember which was your first book on witchcraft or magic? The first book that you find or you read or you buy?
The first book, and I still have it, um, is Witchcraft, the Old Religion by Dr. Leo Martello. That was the very first book I ever found on my own. And I found it a very long time ago. I still have it. My copy is like, you know, really old and junky, but I still have it. That was the very first one.
Well, for the date that we are recording this, I think that the birthday celebration of Le Mortello, who passed away time ago, was like 3 or 6 weeks ago, because I remember I was reading that some days ago. I didn't have yet the opportunity to read it, but a lot of my friends are recommending me that book.
Mm-hmm. The other one, so it's really, for me, it's two because I found them at the same time. The other one was Witchcraft in the Gay Counterculture, which might have been his. I don't know. I don't remember who wrote it. But that one is like so hard to find now. It's like out of print everywhere. But those were where I started with the craft.
I have that one, but I have it in digital and was very difficult to find because it's not something that you can find now in libraries, in bookstores, but
Right.
probably very soon they will have any new edition available. I will put the links of the videos if I find them, or the links of the books if I find them on the description of this one, of this video. Raven, do you remember which was your first spell or ritual that you did?
The first spell that I ever did. There have been so very many. Let me think.
I see.
The first thing that I think the first spell that I ever did was calling up the wind, like invoking the air element and calling up the wind. You know, the whistle.
Yeah.
Like us old-timey witches, we all know the whistle. But that was the first thing I tried, and it was the first thing that like manifested in front of me, like instant. So, you know, because magic isn't like, you know, bewitched or whatever, but that one kind of is a little bit, because you see the results. I mean, the wind blows or it doesn't, right? So, so that was the first one, and that once I did that one, and I saw it work in front of me, I was like, I'm gonna do this every day, all the time, and I just really started practicing hard.
Okay, now I want to move, thanks for the answer. Now I want to move to your art. I know that you made some draws, and also you have this very nice dolls. You have these very nice dolls
Mhm.
that are very interesting. Tell me about that.
So, so what I make are basically spirit dolls, right? For your altar, for your room. Some people buy them as art, and some people buy them as a tool. And so they're kind of like the voodoo dolls that you would get in New Orleans if they weren't made in China and mass produced, right? So the way that you used to hand make them in New Orleans is the way that mine start. It's different though, because I put a spell inside every single doll. So I give it a heart. So it wants to help you. It wants to work with you. It cares about your life. It cares about your problems. Because, you know, just buying a doll from China, it doesn't care about you. So that's the big difference. They go through, just when I'm building them, they go through like 12 different ritual steps before they're ready even to be costumed. And then I do them, I do all the costuming by hand, and they're based on Orisha, they're based on goddesses. Like I've done every pantheon. I do pop people, like pop stars, like I do Stevie Nicks dolls, I do Prince, I do David Bowie. There's been a lot of them, you know. So, but we have actually, I've sold over 1,000 worldwide. And I have buyers and people who collect them on every continent except Africa. That's the only one at this point that I haven't done a sale to. But they started from because I'm old, I could remember the last time we had a really bad climate in the country as far as finances were concerned here. Like we definitely went through a big depression a few years ago. And up until that point, I had always been in the restaurant business actually. So I was always a chef. And then that went away because all of these restaurants closed. The first thing that you lose in a recession is luxuries, like going out to eat. So I couldn't get a job in any of that to save my life. And at that point, I had been making these dolls for a couple of years, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a living at my art. You know, that I just decided to do that. And I put that into the universe. I'm like, this is the way it is. This is what's gonna happen. And it's what I did. I kept at it until I was doing it full time as a way to take care of my family.
Wow, thank you for that. I don't go to ask you here, probably behind the scenes when we have more confidence, but not in the video. How is the process of creation? Because that's something that we don't go to discuss in public. But I really want to go deep on the knowledge that you have about it and about the practice. So now I want to go to your book. This is the thing. I think that we have a common editor in common. My editor knows me very well, knows the kind of book that I like to read and kind of books that I like to endorse, and knows a lot of things about me because I am excessively communicative with the people. I don't have boundaries, especially with my friends. I bother my friends from the 4 a.m. to the 11 p.m. I am all day writing. She knows me very well, and she sent me this book about Yemaya. Immediately I say yes. I really like it because when I was initiated many years ago, because I am older than the people think. My mother is Yemaya, and I always read about her, but it's not usually every book that you find about Orishas is not much new information or not much new points of view. Usually it's the same. They give you the same story, the same pataki, the same myths, the same 2 or 3 rituals, and it's just like 2 or 3 books out there that you really find something new. I really like the book that you wrote. Tell me, how was the process for you when you decided to sit down and go to write a whole book about Gemaja? How do you evolve in the process? Because I know for a fact, being an author, that we sit down with an idea about the book that we are trying to have, and in the end we have a totally different book because usually the books take their own way. How was this process for you?
Wow, the process for me, again, it wasn't an easy process for me to write this book. Because I don't write books like this. I'm a poet, you know, like I for years was in the spoken word poetry scene and things like that. And I'm a fiction novelist. I don't write nonfiction. And my friend Judica for years pushed me to write a book. She's like, you have to write a book. Every time you tell these stories, because she would post something on like Facebook or Instagram about an Orisha, and I would like jump in and I'd be like, oh, and here's the story of blah, blah, blah. And she's like, because I really like the way you tell stories. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, but I don't want to write a book about that. And so it took 5 years. And because I didn't want to write a book about religion. Religion is too personal. What your practices is nobody's business unless you decide to make it their business. You know what I mean? So I was not going to write a book on religion. I was not going to write a book on Santeria. I was not going to write a book on Candomblé. I was not going to write a book on Ita. None of it, because, you know, it's personal. That's personal. So I decided maybe I'll just write a book that's like the classes that I give, or the talks. I've been invited to different, like, you know, pagan gatherings to do these talks about Yemaya. And I said, well, is it really that different if I write it down to put into a book, or if I write it down to put it into a class? It's the same. So that's what I'll do. So I emailed Judica and I said, all right, I'm ready to write this book. And she was all thrilled. And so I started writing it, and it was difficult. There are quite a few personal stories in the book, and some of them, I can't read them without crying, because I opened up a lot of, like, a lot of memories, you know. And some of them weren't all great. And but so it's a very personal book. So it was a little hard because I had to look at myself really closely, and say, okay, what is my voice? Do I even have a voice? Do I have a voice that anybody wants to hear? You know, and who am I to write this? Like, who am I to write this? Okay, well, I lived this my entire life. I lived this story, so I guess I am the person who should write it. I was in no way at all confident about it. I agonized over every page. I was like, nobody's going to like this. This isn't, you know, it's trash, blah, blah, blah. I had absolutely no confidence. And it's the first time in my life that I've had no confidence, like, at all. And so I just kept depending on, you know, my very best friend. And I would call them and I'd be like, okay, so this is what I wrote today. Tell me if this is horrible. And between him and my godson and my husband, we all got through it fairly unscathed. But yeah, so it was a difficult process in one way, and on the other way, I think it's the greatest thing I ever did. I think that it's something that will last. It's something that'll be here after I'm not. And I sometimes feel that way about, like, my paintings and things, but this is really, if I have to take stock of all of my art everywhere in the world that it exists and put it up to this book is more important. You know, I think that it really is the biggest accomplishment of my life, because I didn't think I would finish it. And I struggled, even just to get to, like, the required word count. Like, I struggled, because unless I'm writing in prose, I tend to explain things really quick and simple, and you can't do that. You know what I mean? When you have to fill up, you know, 60,000 words, it can't be simple, or it at least has to be interesting. So, and then you know, and this is a really long answer, so you're gonna be really sad that you asked this question, because it's gonna take forever to answer. But it was I can't even think now. I totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, oh yeah, I never thought it would be finished. I thought it was something that I'd never get through. I'd never be able to finish it, because I know that, like, the last novel that I wrote, which is not published yet, but it took me 10 years to write it. You know, I don't do things, where writing is concerned, I don't do things quickly, and I'm a revisionist, so I keep going back and I keep going back and I keep going back, and I'm like, how could this be better? So it was manic. High highs and low lows. But spiritually it was important. It brought me back. It brought me back to places in my practice that maybe I haven't been that close to, or maybe, you know, got forgotten over the years, and stuff like that. And so it brought a lot of that back, and I just felt very rejuvenated after. I just felt very fresh again, you know. So yeah, that's how it was.
So we can compete about who is the real king of writing too much. I wrote this book on Charmbags 4 years ago. You know, it has a contract for a limit of words, and I started like with 30,000, and the book was made for. I don't remember which was the limit, but I remember that I has an extra of 15,000 words. And in the next one, in my book, Manifestation Magic, that comes out like 3 months ago, it has an extra of 21,000 words. I always excess. So I always has this joke with Judica, with the editor, your editor, to that she's the queen of writing too much and I am the king of writing too much, because I always excess in the material. And I understand totally your feeling, because when you sit down, you have so many years of practice and you're trying to put that in words. Just someone says to you, I just need to 10,000 words of this. And you say, yes, because you know that you have some material in your mind. When you sit down, you're starting to remember everything related with that topic, and you put a lot of work on there. And that's a good sign, because you really show how much do you know about it.
Right. There's also, like, it was also a little bit hard to get to the amount of words I was supposed to have, because like there, there's a lot you can't talk about, because this book is written for people who are
Yes.
outside. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So you can't, so you can't tell them everything, and so it was because this book is about how to bring her into your practice, whatever your practice is. So there were certain things that I had to stay really, really clear of. And so I would write a chapter and go back and be like, oh, scratch this, we can't say that, scratch it, no. I don't need the backlash of letting that one slip. um, so that part was difficult too.
Yes. I grew up between Amazon and Caracas in Venezuela. We talk Spanish. We don't have many books. We have like 3 books about these topics, about Santeria, Lukumi, Orishas. We have like 3 or maybe 4, and no more than that. So I think we could find more information. We have some magazines that are some help, but not enough. And I really appreciate every author who has a voice and trying to take the time to write about this, because it gives you a different point of view from someone in a different country or in a different generation or in a different language. And that's very nice, because in many ways make richer all the religion, all the path for the new coming people here.
Yeah, absolutely.
This this is a tricky question, maybe a little bit intentional. I should tell you before starting to do the video that I will ask you that, but in that way it's not so funny, because now you need to struggle with elaborate the answer. How important is the role of Yemaya in your life?
She's everything. She's absolutely everything. There really isn't a part of my life that doesn't revolve around her. The altars in my home, the altars in my shop, the art that I do, the book that I wrote, everything is for her. So I kind of, it's like my whole life is for her. It's like, it's hard to, that's a hard one to answer, because it's everything. I don't do anything that doesn't take her into account at some point. And her influence is like everywhere. Like my house is full of mermaids, and my shop is full of mermaids and shells and statues and everything. Like, so she's never not with me. I actually have her sigil tattooed on my arm. So yeah, no, she's part of everything I do.
Wow, that's a very amazing answer. I not was really expecting that. I was thinking that you will be struggling with the answer, but no, you was very fast for that. A topic that I really enjoy, that you put in the book from the first moment, is the role of Gemaja, because she's always known as a queen of the sea, a goddess, a siren or mermaid. In Venezuela and Brazil, she's known as a sorceress. But you wrote about her role in the LGBTQ community or queer community. How was this aspect? How was this for you? How you discovered this aspect of her? How you decided to put that in the book?
I thought it was important to put in the book, because she does have a huge part in the community, and so many of us in the queer community are drawn to her. The first story I ever heard that let me know where she was with the LGBTQIA was the story about how she let me get it right. So the story says, this is not necessarily like the truth, but the story says that she had 2 great powers. One was that she could become a whale and swim through the sea. And then the other was that she could change her form. She could shapeshift. And any spirit that's really related to water and the in-between states of like, you know, mist and fog and things like that, are considered to be fluid, right? And even very gender fluid. So the story goes that she had been really arrogant about the homosexuals where she was. And Obatala decided that she needed to learn better, and how to be better. And so he caused her to be like stranded on this island, and locked her out of the whale form so she couldn't go back into the water, right? And then she discovered that she was on an island that was only inhabited by men. And so fearing for her virtue, she shapeshifted into a man, right? And at that very moment, Obatala said, okay, you're stuck. You're going to spend a year here, and you're not going to change back. You're going to be here. You're going to learn a lesson. And while she was on that island, she fell in love with a man. And she discovered that like love is love, and that men can be with men and women can be with women. And she lost her arrogance about it. Because she had felt that love, you know, it was real. She understood it. And once she understood it, Obatala allowed her to return. And so in that story, she becomes the patroness of homosexuals because she was one for a hot minute. And then, you know, the other story, the famous story about the drag queens on the beach, right? Where her husband at the time, she stole the shells from him, right? And she ran out of the house. He was freaking out. He was chasing her all over. She ran out of the house, down to the beach, where there just happened to be like this gaggle of drag queens. I don't know why there was a bunch of drag queens on a beach, but because generally they don't do well in the heat. But anyway, they were. And so they protected her because they knew that he would not come anywhere near them. So they all kind of like enclosed around her and kept her safe from him. And that's one of the other stories about how she became involved in the community. But on that real deep level, that deep, you know, the molecular level, it has to do with the fact that everything about her is fluid. You know, her form is fluid, her element is fluid, her nature is fluid. So yeah, her gender is fluid, her sexuality is fluid. She's very, yeah, she's adaptable, you know. And I think that, you know, the gay community embraces her so much because like she's the mother who didn't say get out of my house, you know, when we came out. I mean, you know, she didn't throw us out. So I think that's what brings a lot of people back to her.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I entirely relate with that, with all the myth and with all the character. Also, she's in my country, she's very well known in all the community. I'm telling you about the Catholic community, the Christian community. You know, it's one of those characters that you walk around different parts of different cities, Mérida or Caracas or Nueva Esparta in Venezuela, and you find a status of her, not in the syncretization representative that is the building. No, I mean Yemaya in different status in different places. And she has flowers and oils and perfumes and candles that people who are from outside of the religion go there to put in the name of her. And you see that a lot of people from the queer community go for her and with Oshun for protection because in different countries of Latin America, like Venezuela, the queer community don't have a very strong voice, don't have equality marriage and this kind of thing. So people always look for her for protection. And it's a very nice character of her that people usually avoid or don't talk too much. And I think that is one of the first times that I find it in a book that is in yours. Before this, I just remember that I read something about it in a magazine that we had years ago in Venezuela, because we have a monthly magazine called The Orishas. And this magazine every month has different topics, rituals, pataki, and different stories about different aspects of the religion, and they talk about her in that way. But was something like a special edition for the Pride Month, and they reflect on the character of the Orishas involving the queer community, and Yemaya and Dushun were the principal in that.
Mm-hmm.
Raven, has been an amazing time with you. I really like this discussion with you. Do you have anything else to say that you want to share? Anything, whatever about you, about your amazing story, about your wonderful book, anything.
Um, Well, everybody should get the book because it's a beautiful book. I actually have some of my art is in it, which is really nice.
Yes.
But they wouldn't let me do the cover. I'm like, let me do the cover, and they're like, no, we have an art department. I'm like, okay. So everybody should get this book. It's a beautiful book. What do I want to say about it? I think that it was needed. I think it was necessary. I think that what I really want to talk about is all the division in the community. You know, that's what I would really like to address. And the fact that there are people who feel like you can only take this road to Yemaya. You can only, if you have to be from here, or you have to be from there, or you have to be Ifa, or you have to be regular to Ocho, or you got to be this, you got to be that. And we're the only people who can touch her. We're the only people who can talk to her. We're the only people who can see her. And that's not true. I mean, my biological family was from Brazil, so we were from San Salvador. I never lived there, but I did get to go there. And it's like, you know, okay, so if you're only in Brazil, if you're only in Cuba, if you're only in Miami, and it's not true, you know. My whole life being, you know, fairly light but mixed races, it was hard because one half of my community said you're not this enough, and the other half said you're not that enough. And then, you know, throw in being gay on top of it, and they're like, now you're really too far out of where you're supposed to be. So, you know, I feel for people who are looking to connect to her, and all they hear is, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're not initiated. You can't do it. You can do it, you know? And it doesn't matter if you're brown or you're black or you're yellow or you're pink or you're purple or you're green. It doesn't matter, because the mother of all life is not looking at all life and saying, okay, I only want this one and that one and that one and that one. She's the mother of all life. That means everybody. She's everybody's mother. Whether, and even if you are in the religion, before anybody else could take you, she was your mother, you know? So who are we to say what she wants or doesn't want? You know, she makes it perfectly clear she doesn't want you. You know, she'll make it perfectly clear. So she'll tell us. It's not up to some, you know, and you know, I tend to say things without thinking, but you know, there are a lot of like the Babalawao who are like, nope, you can't do anything, and we're just here to make all of the money on the initiations, and it's that whole the business of it, you know, which I think is wrong, and I think it's harsh, and I think that it's designed particularly to keep people out. And I don't like that division, you know, which is why I said I'm going to make a book that's available to anybody who wants to read it, to anybody who wants to know these things about Yemaya, because she touches every country in the world. There's some representation of her in every country in the world. There's, you know, the siren, the mermaid, in every folklore, every culture. There's the mother of the ocean. Whether she goes by the same name or not, and usually she does, she's everywhere. So who are we to say that, you know, the people in that country that she touched when she traveled the entire world with Oba, who are we to say that those people don't love her and don't have a valid connection? They do. We all do. She doesn't belong to us. We belong to her. And we all do. So that's really the heartbeat of this book.
I go to complement. Let me aim to grow your quote here. Here. Yeah. I'm taking notes. I'm always taking notes. Let me complement your what you were talking. I come from Venezuela. I born in Amazon, and I had the amazing opportunity to born in there. most of all, I am very grateful that also I have the opportunity to go out of there for many reasons. I have my initiations. I travel a lot around the country and for different parts of around the country too, out of the country, and I know very well the history of Yoruba land, Nigeria, and I offer classes about this topic many times. First of all, scientifically, all of us come from Africa. That's something, I mean, you can't fight with science. We come from Africa, so all religions, all different colors or colors of the skin, everything comes from there. Apart of that, anthropologically talking, all the religions come from Africa. The first religions registered in the whole world comes from Africa. Before that, slaves starting to arrive in a very rude way in America, they have a lot of influence for different parts of the continent. And we're talking about years of history. I think there were 800 years of history that they were related with the Muslims and other people around. I offered months ago a whole class on candomblé about this, about all the historical concept of candomblé and lukumi. When the slaves arrive in America, they bring with them just little bits of the religion. And in America, in South America specifically, they turn with the other slaves that were in America, the natives of America, they turn all of this, they blend all of this, and create the whole Afro-Caribbean tradition. And from there we have candomblé, lukumi, palomayombe, umbanda, kimbanda, so many others. All of these religions come from different bits of information that the slaves bring from Africa. These slaves that come from Africa, they talk a whole different blend of languages. They talk 6 different languages from 12 different countries. And all of these slaves blend the religion with the natives in America, specifically in South America, actually Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia. And these slaves talk another completely different language. And they try to blend together. They try to make a union of this because in their conception in their mind was, I am a slave from Africa. I have this enemy that is the white man from Spain, Italy, whatever. And you are a slave in your own country, in your own continent, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, or Cuba, or Dominican Republic. And you and I, we have the common enemy, is this same white person. So we go to put together all of this. We have different languages, we have different religions, but we together believe in spirits of nature, we believe in the manifestation of the gods, we are pagans, we believe in magic. So they comes and try to represent the whole religion and say, you can do this in that way. These people are avoiding the fact that this religion has literally growing in total freedom for the last 600 years. From Africa to America, it's a religion that continues growing and expanding. So every time that someone comes to say, you can do this, they think in their narcissist, egocentric way, that they are representing all of these slaves that suffered so much many years ago, all of these slaves from America, all of these slaves that were taken against their will from Africa and take to America. And they really believe that they are so narcissistic that they really believe that they own the religion and that they can decide who comes, who do, who walks, who talks. And in the end of the day, like you say, the gods don't belong to us. We belong to them. It's entirely different, and I really appreciate that you say that, because that thing that you are saying is a situation that happens in all the metaphysical community, in different parts of the metaphysical community, between the healers, between the magicians, between the witches, between the santeros. In all of these different parts, you will find people who is like, you can do this. For example, I like to write Orishas with eggs, and every time that I do that, some people come to my Instagram or my Facebook, you can do this, you need to write in this another way. Where I come from Venezuela, I grew up next to Brazilians, my friends, write in that way. So I learned with them, and actually it was an easy effort for them. So I write in this way for respect to them. But you can do that. Who are you to say this? Because when natives starting to use these words, they don't know how to write Orisha. So who are you to take all of this statement and say, oh, you can do this in this way? It's a very complicated situation because there's so many narcissist people out there, and these people has fear to don't be part of something. So they have so much fear to be alone that they prefer to try to create all of this messiah complex character and say, I am the one, so if you want to be part of the religion, you need to come to me, because they have fear to be let out. They have fear to be let alone. Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, the further point of that is, who are they? Like the ones
Exactly.
who are saying, who are you and you can't do it because I say you can't do it. Who are you? Because
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure you didn't write the rules. You know, I'm pretty sure you didn't invent this. I'm pretty sure you didn't, you know, you don't own it. So, you know, there are very similar parts to a lot of the traditions. And, you know, and I hate to say it, but each tradition wants to say that their way is the only way. And it's like, well, no, because if you take this and you look at how they were doing it here, it's different. And if you go even further back, you know, in Africa, there were no villages that worshipped all of the Orisha. The village,
Exactly.
there was one. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So this village over here they dealt with Yemaya. This one over here, that was Ochun. But not all of them at the same time. So it's already not the same, you know, but it's
Yes.
no less valid. It's just different.
Yes. Thank you, Raven, for all of this. Has been an amazing discussion.
Thank you.
Really amazing. I really appreciate and love every word that you say here. I really love all the talk. The links of my friend Raven are available in the description of this video. You can look for his book that is available everywhere. It's in paperback, it's in audiobook, it's in Kindle. You can find it in your favorite bookstore. If you go to any bookstore on magical esoteric topics and they don't have it, please reclaim and please let us know which is the story, because usually the publisher is trying to put every book in every possible place. So if you don't find it in any place, you can ask in the bookstore if they can make the book. In that way, they can bring the book to you and you can continue supporting your local store, and that's very important. So in that way, we avoid buying on Amazon or in different places, okay? Thank you, Raven, for your time. You are really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had a really good time.
Thank you, everyone. Watch the links below.